Greetings. This is Bro Diallo with the Bro Diallo Show, live and direct once again. October 14th, in the year of your Lord, 2016. We have our extended show today. So let's jump in with both feet, take full advantage of the time, and look at some relevant and not so relevant things from a fully Pan-African perspective. Thanks for tuning in. Q4 Radio, AM 1680, broadcasting out of the city of Chicago. All right. Thank you again for tuning in. I'm going to pick up where I left off Wednesday. And don't worry if you didn't listen Wednesday. I know you can find it in the archives eventually. Actually, the Bro Diallo archives at diallokenyatta.com are actually being updated pretty well, and they're creeping on a come up, to quote Bone Thugs and Harmony. I've almost got the archives fully updated. I got almost all of September up there, halfway through October, and after that, we'll be on our way. If y'all logging on. You know, all of this could be in vain, but I'll do it anyway. Who cares, right? Anyway, let's pick up, because I got a lot to cover, and do y'all hear that echo, or is it just me? Has COINTELPRO mined games finally? Hello? Okay, I hear an echo, but you know, y'all can tweet, Facebook me and see if it don't bother y'all, then it don't bother me. The voices in my head, I'll keep them there. Anyway, let's talk about the election. Last week we talked about, not last week, Wednesday, we talked about, and I promised everyone that I would not deal with this mess, you know, this train load of feces called the U.S. electoral system, U.S. political system, Democratic, Republican, WWE, pretending to be enemies when they are truly, ultimately allies, serving the same interest. I said, I will leave that mess alone until we get closer. So if you go back to the soon-to-be fully updated archives, you'll find I didn't talk about, I talked about Obama because he's in office and we're currently living under an Obama administration and a Republican House and Senate and a, right-leaning Supreme Court up until Anton Scalia was savagely suffocated and murdered in his bed in order to give Obama a nominee. I'm about to flip into Alex Jones on him. I just think he died. All the poor little piggies and the chickens that he ate finally came home to roost in his gullet. That's why, go vegan. Unless you're a fascist like Anton Scalia, then don't go vegan. Eat all the pork and drink all the grain, hard whiskey you can get your hands on. Burn in hell, Anton Scalia. No, that's too good for you. Boil in the septic tank at the pit of hell, Anton Scalia. And I hope the notorious RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, joins you sooner than later. And that's another thing. Put a little note in my notes, adding notes on top of notes about the notorious RBG, the racist, feminist, liberal Supreme Court Justice who just exposed herself. And that's a wonderful thing. I'm all about self-exposure because we are an oppressed people and we don't really have the money like the U.S. government has for CIA, FBI, NSA, ATF. We don't have the black sites, the black budgets, economic hitman, jackals. We don't have the money to do all this. We don't have satellite spy planes and all that mess. We don't have all that to find out what our enemies or our supposed allies are thinking or doing. So a lot of times we get caught up in gossip and speculation and petty rumors, which is not healthy for a people or for a movement. So since we can't spy and put little mics in people's bed and sneak around and leave mics live like they did with Trump, since we can't really, do that sneaky, tricky, hicky stuff, and it's not really our mentality, because before Kid Cudi started a conversation about black male emotions and black male mental illness. And see, I wish if I thought I was going to talk about Kid Cudi, I wouldn't have talked about voices in my head. Yes, I'm good. Don't text me you good, man, because I'm going to block you. If Kid Cudi had to provoke you to give a damn about me or anybody else, then just don't start giving a damn. But as I was saying, since we don't have all these investigative agencies, it's really good when people self-expose. When your enemies or your supposed allies actually tell on themselves. That way we don't have to sneak and spy on them to find out what they really think at their heart, of their core. So I don't get into talking about, you notice I criticize everybody. If you go to my unofficial New Negro archivist, who exposes me by sharing my exact words and links to my writings and videos and stuff in order to expose me, to bring me down by sharing exactly what I said. I mean, come on, keep trying to bring me down. I support you in that effort, especially if that's your methodology. But then he's really doing what I advocate, so I can't even front. Thank you, Mr. Martin. But I advocate that, you notice that I criticize a lot of people, I critique a lot of things, but I always use exactly what people said. And then I will articulate my positions, my response, my views on what they said, but I always start exactly with what people say and what has been confirmed that they have done or not done. And that's what I call self-exposure. When people tell on themselves, you don't have to guess. So I'm all for mocking people, clowning people, rolling on people, all that stuff. I'm from that era where we used to just crack on each other. We didn't call it playing dozens, but it's akin to that, but anything was on the table. But first you have to have some type of basis in fact. And a lot of people come at me with a lot of stuff about other people, so-and-so do this, so-and-so don't do that. But again, I only deal with when I can, self-exposure. And I say all that to say that with Hillary Clinton's rise to power, a lot of feminism and feminists are self-exposing, are showing that you can be pro-empire, pro-white domination, anti-Black Lives Matter, anti-woman, and still be a legitimate mainstream feminist. And I know a lot of black feminists know this. That's why they've tried to, go to this big gelatinous blob, festering blob called feminism, cut a little sliver off and name that black feminism. Cut another little gelatinous blob off of this rotting corpse of an ideology and call that trans feminism or intersectional feminism. And then you have, which is my favorite gelatinous sliver, dandruff flake off of the head of the mainstream feminism, called radical feminist or revolutionary communist feminism. And it's all white. Ain't many sisters over there. But again, that's not my topic. I'm just glad that white women are finally having their time in the sun. They've suffered so long. With the longest life expectancy, with the least likely, the demographic that's least likely to suffer from violent crime, violent homicide, to go to prison, to be homeless. White women, but they are oppressed. I'm not even going to mock that because that's not funny. Or I like what Howard Zinn called white women in his book, historical book, awfully long. I didn't think it had to be that long, but I guess he wanted to squeeze it. And it was close to the end of his life. You notice when people get older, they start to try to pack everything into everything. Every little birthday, every little thing, they try to make a major thing because it could be their last thing. I respect that. But he called white women the intimately oppressed. Or more accurately, because it's a difference. White women aren't oppressed. Black women, Native women, some Asian women, they're oppressed. But white women are actually exploited. And if I have time, I'll get in. If I get to get into Sister Queen Mother Ruth Bader Ginsburg's betrayal and denunciation of Black Lives Matter. But that's not even what I wanted to start with. I wanted to talk about the election. the soon-to-be coronation. And let me tell you something. You needed a blatant, cartoonish, rapist, fascist to run in order for Hillary Clinton to ascend to the White House. She couldn't beat Obama in the primary. But she couldn't have beat Ted Cruz, Paul Ryan. You take any Republican, prominent Republican, senator, governor, and put her up against Clinton. Clinton couldn't beat none of them. None of them. She just, and it's obvious. So imagine how bad you have to be, where you have to have someone who is essentially a pedophilic con man. It's the best it had to come up against you in order for you to ascend to this position. Because now we always knew Trump was a con man, a hustler, a shyster. But now he's a pedophilic con man, hustler, shyster. And Hillary's still struggling to beat him. That's how horrible she is. And people instinctively, intuitively know that's how horrible she is. And literally any other prominent Republican would be crushing her in the polls right now. How do we know? Because if you go to like Ballotpedia or all the other polling sites, too many to name, I mean just polls and stats on stats on stats on stats. If you go to any, you find that they'll put anyone, they'll just grab random people. Like Hillary versus, House Speaker Ryan. Who would win in such a fictional contest? Hillary against Ted Cruz. Hillary against Mitt Romney. Hillary against Bro Diallo from the Bro Diallo Show. Bro Diallo takes all the southern states. I mean, it's crazy. One of the most unpopular women in the history of public life and public policy in politics. So they knew that the best chance she has is that, because Hillary is not winning, it's that Trump is losing. Hillary didn't. Now we know from and WikiLeaks, it's so much going on. But now we know from the leak, the volumes and volumes of leaked emails that Bernie was subverted by cooperation between Wasserman Schultz and the Democratic Party, the DNC, Democratic National Convention, and the corporate media. They conspired to subvert, and I think it goes deeper. The rabbit hole goes deeper, but I mean, even these fascist oligarchs who think they're all powerful and smarter than the rest of us, even they know not to tell it all. They know they got to hold back on some stuff. But I truly believe that the election machines were tampered with, the voter sites were moved around, certain polling places were deliberately understaffed. A bunch of ballots got all this dirty tricks. That's why I'm telling you. If you don't listen or follow any other political media, just stay up on Greg Palast. He's probably the best electoral journalist in the United States. Of course, he can't work in the United States because no legitimate media outlet will hire Greg Palast, a great investigative journalist with all the credentials, but nobody will hire him. So he has to go work for overseas press and things of that nature, indie press. But just look, Greg Palast, and follow him on the election. Because that's all I can, that's the best I can do for you. Because it's just so much mess. I can't get into everything on this show. But I'm just going to give an overview because Wednesday, even though I'm hating on U.S. democracy, demo-crazy, I went on this long rant about advocating that black people engage the political system that we live in. And I'm not going to get to calm down. Don't log off. I'm not about to get all into that. I'm just saying that if you have a black leader, a black scholar, some black person that you think is an authority, and they're telling you don't vote, then they're an idiot and stop listening to them. They're a short-sighted, reactionary fool. How do I know? Because every criticism that they level against the U.S. political system works and is a legitimate criticism that they can level at educational system and economic system. Right? And name a black leader that's telling you, don't give me money. Don't make money, earn money, invest money, spend money. Don't engage the U.S. economy because it's corrupt and it's racist and it ain't going to work for us. None of them. In fact, the very people telling you to ignore politics is telling you to give them money for education or for schools. And so I'm not saying okay, I'm not going to rehash that. I'm not going to rehash that. Calm down, because I wanted to talk about some other stuff. I wanted to give an overview of the four major parties in the election. Because I will say, I would discourage anyone from voting for Hillary Rodham Clinton, bring them to Hillary Clinton, as I call her. I would discourage anyone from voting from that pedophilic fascist Donald Trump. In my opinion, I speculate. So I've heard. But guess what? You have other options. You have Jill Stein, the Green Party, and she's got the only black man on the national ballot, Ajamu Baraka, the Green Party vice presidential candidate. So all y'all talking about we need somebody black in the White House, black, all y'all who voted for Obama because he black, now you have a black vice president, vote green. And then of course, that functionally illiterate Gary Johnson. And he's like, the Libertarian Party, he's like the CEO of like a weed company, a weed dispensary or something. So, libertarians are basically racist Republicans, fascist, racist Republicans, but they like to openly smoke weed or like to sleep in on Sunday so they don't go to church. So they're basically secular Republicans. But they're just as stupid. But that's not it. You have another fascist party, the Constitution Party, and they're running a guy, Darrell Lane Castile. You have the Reform Party, which is another right-wing party, Rocky de la Fuente. And then you have the independent candidate, Evan McCullough, and then you have the Party for Socialism and Liberation, Gloria Estela Rivera. So, there's three women on the ballot. So if you need, and all of these are legitimate candidates. And the Constitution Party, Reform Party, Independent Party, and the Party for Socialist Liberation is on the ballot in several states. So, if you're talking about, I ain't voting because you got options. And again, don't come to me like, oh, who gonna win and who ain't gonna win, because this ain't a casino. This ain't a gambling thing. This ain't the Super Bowl. You're not supposed to bet on the winner. You're supposed to vote according to who you think will best represent the platform, the political policy platform that you support, and who best represents your political views and positions and values and objectives. So you're not out there to try to vote for the winner. And I think they've confused a lot of people in that. But let's just overview. What do we stand to lose, gain, or see, or not see with the various parties coming to power? It's already in the bag for Hillary. If you could go find, I did this interview where they invited me out to talk to this panel of feminists. It was one dude feminist and then two sister feminists. And I was the only dissenting voice on feminism. And this was about 2 years ago. Yeah, Alicia Fiasco. That's where I first met her. And we had our very first of many discussions about women's liberation. And I said way back then, before she had even formally announced her candidacy, I had no idea Bernie was going to throw his toupee in the ring. But I said Hillary's got this in the bag. She took a little detour with Obama. The nation was color struck. But now America's back on track. And she's ready to inherit her throne. And somebody said, they just hope that when she does take office, the first thing she does is hire a young, muscular, hunky intern and force him to give her oral copulation in the overall. Just y'all so petty. Petty Tendergrass and Petty LaBelle getting married at the Petty Chapel. But it would be cool if she did that. I can't even front. It would be worth having a matriarchal fascist in the White House just for that. But anyway, let's talk about what's to expect. Let's just overview the major party. First, the Libertarian Party. Actually, the Green Party is at the lowest. I think Jill Stein is trending nationally at 1%. Gary Johnson at 4% area, and these polls change hourly, not even daily. So at 4%, of course, Trump is in the upper 40s and declining, and Hillary Clinton has had a steady, strong 56%. So anyway, the libertarian. Let's start with Jill Stein, who's at the bottom. She started from the bottom, and she will remain there for no other reason than the open bias of the U.S. media outlet, the corruption of the U.S. political system, and the voluntary ignorance of the U.S. electorate. Those are the things she has to overcome, which aren't insurmountable, but it's going to take a little bit more than what the Green Party apparently is ready to do. I don't know why they won't hire me as a consultant. I work for tofu. Organic, non-GMO tofu. But I think I'm worth it. But anyway, the Green Parties, the top of their platform, single-payer healthcare on demand and without apology. And see, this is the thing I don't understand. Another thing that annoys me about feminists. And I support a woman's right to choose. I support a woman's right to have an abortion because scientifically, historically, culturally, it makes no sense to put a prohibition on abortion because women have been getting abortions since women have been giving birth. And you could either make it safe and accessible or you can make it illegal and deadly. And I think that the individuals, especially the men, mostly men, who want to ban abortion and put a prohibition on abortion, see women as breeding sows, not as fully human and capable of making that decision. And I would tweak the abortion policy somewhat. But this is my thing about women, feminists. Their mantra is abortion on demand and without apology. That's Hillary's position. But if you say abortion is a part of health care, why not say health care on demand without apology? No feminist, no prominent feminist has ever made that statement. Every time I've engaged, every time I've looked into the issue, they said we want abortion on demand without apology. We want birth control on demand and without apology. We want family planning on demand and without apology. Universal health care, well, that's something we have to debate. And it's not that simple. Yeah, it's that simple. So Jill Stein has taken the feminist mandate of abortion on demand without apology and expanded it to any level of medical treatment, medicine, healthcare procedures, excluding, things that are, what do you call, cosmetic. You still have to pay to get your boobs enhanced, your penile implants, your nose jobs to thin out your noses, for your tanning, skin tanning, all that you have to pay. But any necessary treatment, any preventative medicine on demand without apology. Universal health care. The only candidate on the ballot is the Green Party candidate who gives the guarantee she will shut it all down with abortion. Decriminalization of all drugs. Not legalization. Legalization of marijuana across the board. But decriminalization of all drugs and treating drug addiction as though it is a public health issue. So basically she's saying she wants to treat all drug addicts like they're white drug addicts. Start treating black drug addicts like they're white drug addicts, I guess. The whiteification of drug policy for all. White drug policies for all Americans. Hallelujah. And as a child of one who suffers from severe and persistent issues with substance abuse and addiction, I get behind that. Since I was 8 years old, I've been on the front lines of America's drug wars involuntarily. I've never even smoked a joint, but it's always been at the center of my life. And I would like to get it up out of my life, and I'm working on that, and I support those who support that. And I think the first step, decriminalization of all drugs. Green Party, we're dealing with Jill Stein's Green Party, Ajamu Baraka, her VP candidate, only brother on the ballot. So decriminalization of drugs, complete reversal on privatization of both prisons, federal contracting, and schools. She was like, if you're in it for profit, you get no public money. And when I say federal contracting, mainly military, she will immediately end all private military mercenary armies that Obama just loved. Because Obama, I'm going to take people out of Iraq. And for every as he was pulling out troops out of Iraq, he was giving contracts to more mercenary soldiers of fortune. Formerly Z Corp, or now it used to be Blackwater, the world's biggest mercenary army, Geo Group, all this private money, all this private for-profit enterprises taking public money. She says she's going to stop all of that. The only candidate on the ballot that's promising these things. And then her number one priority, which is I think should be the number one priority for any legitimate political or organizational, non-government, for any revolutionary organization, is the ecology. She not only promises to rapidly and aggressively move the U.S. to non-carbon renewable energy, universal non-carbon renewable energy, she intends to take the military budget, cut it by more than half, close overseas bases, and put all those trillions of dollars into building a sustainable, low to no emissions energy grid across the United States. I mean, everything I look at on the Green Party platform, I can't get into everything because time ain't on my side, but every single thing on the Green Party platform, I don't have an issue with. And if you listen to me and you follow my unofficial New Negro archivist, I hate on everything and everybody. And did I even mention their position on Israel? They will stop funding the Zionist state. They will switch to working with the Palestinians. And then you wonder why you don't see Jill Stein on television, while the media mocks and like all those silly greens. And these are serious politicians. I mean, Jill Stein is a doctor. John Baraka is a longtime activist, educated. This is a serious, legitimate political party with a fully developed political platform, fully all the apparatus of executing and getting their candidates on the ballot. But the corporate media, which holds massive mind control corporate media, is persona non gratis. Forgive my Latin. But they don't want, no, they won't touch it with a 10-foot pole because the Green Party platform is a threat to the fundamental status quo. The political status quo. And I'm not a member of the Green Party. I'm fully independent because there's no party. I mean, again, it's not a Pan-African Revolutionary Liberationist party, so I'm not about to pay no dues. But I'm willing to let her, hey, run, take my vote, run with it. Do your thing, Jill. And I could get into some other details, but those are the major the platform positions. You can go to Green Party or GP.org, whatever. Just DuckDuckGo, Green Party. And let's move on to the number 3 presidential candidate, Gary Functionally Literate Johnson of the Libertarian Party. And like I said, libertarians are open, blatant fascists. If you accept Mussolini's definition of fascism is when the private sector essentially takes over and directs the corporate sector, the public sector. Now, libertarianism is basically attempting to take a primitive idea or concept of governance and impose it on a modern, complex, entrenched state. It would be as though someone came, a bushman from the savannah, came and took over the country, and he tried to use his. And when I say primitive, it's not even an insult. Primitive means first or earliest. It doesn't necessarily mean savage or backwards. It just means this is the earliest manifestation. When 50 years from now, when people find those old flip phones, it's like, look at this primitive phone. That doesn't mean it was a savage phone or it didn't work. The phone didn't work. It was just a phone of a past era. But I mean, because Europeans didn't do anything first, literally nothing first, from personal hygiene to wearing shoes to architecture to culture, writing, music, they it's like, well, since we have nothing that's really primitive, we're going to make primitive a dirty word and pretend like the only things worth that matter are the things of the now and the things of the future. We don't care about the past. which causes us, and which I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but so if you take a Bushman and put him over the U.S. and he tries to use his tribal methods and tribal ways and tribal laws to govern this state, it just doesn't work. That doesn't mean the laws are bad. It just doesn't apply to this type of social organization, the way society is structured now. And so libertarianism would actually work if you had a small village community of, let's say, 45 people, maybe 100. But once you get up to around 1,500 people living within a confined, defined space, libertarian doesn't work. Libertarianism becomes barbarism. You know, it becomes what capitalism truly is, dog eat dog. Because libertarianism says basically you put no restrictions on nothing. You repeal all regulations. And that means, libertarians means if you are a private business owner or a private homeowner, or let's say a business owner, and you say, I don't want no colored folks, I don't want no Jews, I don't want no fat people, whatever, I don't want certain people in my business, then libertarianism will defend your right. Now, I don't know how they're going to defend it, you know, but because they want to defund everything, so I don't know, the courts, they don't want to pay for anything. The only things that the libertarians believe in funding are the military to protect the borders. But then once their social policies are implemented, won't nobody want to come here, so you don't even need that. Because this would be a dystopian, even worse than it is now. The libertarians want to remove the Civil Rights Act. They want to repeal the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. If you own a house, and let's say I own a house, and Chicago has what? 13 nuclear power plants, rickety nuclear power plants, poison us all slowly, daily. And I want to go to one of those owners of the nuclear power plants and say, listen, I own a couple of acres right in Bronzeville. And I'm willing to let you pay me to store your nuclear waste on my land. In the middle of Bronzeville, a heavily populated black community. And they say, well, the government won't allow me to. You know, there's certain government restrictions on where we can store nuclear waste, and there's strict regulations on how to contain it and where to contain it. Not to say that they're followed, but they're on the books. There's a lot of laws on the books that are ignored, I know. But libertarians don't even want the pretense. And so I come and store that in my hood, and it's my property, my private property. And so you as my neighbor, even though the alpha particles, you know, the radioactive particles are leaching into your soil and your children are outside playing and their ball goes into the yard, nothing you can do about it. That's libertarianism. It's stupid. It doesn't work. But, you know, like I said, a lot of young idiots vote for them because they're like, hey, they're going to legalize all drugs. And also they're going to remove regulations on drugs by drug manufacturers. So drug manufacturers don't have to prove they're safe. They believe the market will take care of it. They believe, hey, if a drug manufacturer makes an unsafe drug and sells it and some people die, then nobody will try that drug and they'll go out of business. The market solves all problems. Now, there's no market-based system anywhere because the market-based system does not work. It's not that simple. But he is that simple. But I mean, is it even work? Well, what's really frightening to me is that, like I said, the libertarian idiotic platform, and they want to privatize everything. Like I said, the only thing the government is supposed to do is have the courts to settle disputes. And they want the military to protect the borders. Other than that, everything is up for grabs. Everything else is just, the whole country is a casino. And you look at certain states like Somalia, Honduras, you know, these places that have been taken over by, you know, narco gangs, those are pretty much libertarian states, where the state keeps its hands out of what happens in the streets whatsoever. You know, and I'm a big advocate, and this is not, and people confuse libertarianism with anarchy, and it's not the same thing. Because libertarianism is actually a system that is supported by most of the elites. Libertarianism is a system that favors those with the most money. And so I'll just have a private army and my private gated community, and all my private, if you read someone like Parable of the Sower, Octavia Butler's great book series, where basically the wealthy people had their private airports, their private helicopter pads, their private communities, their private pools with walls and armed paid guards, and everybody else lived in utter just desperation. You know, rape, everything, just murder, cannibalism, but the elites lived on high and made big profits off of exploiting the masses, and there were no protections for the masses. And that's pretty much the libertarian vision. So the libertarian believes that, you know, if I have enough money, you know, to buy up land and kick people off that land and then store nuclear waste and contaminate, then nobody should say, because money is all. But they don't even understand that money and capitalism itself is extremely more dependent on state inputs than the socialist economy is. But then that's a whole nother discussion. But, I mean, like I said, what's scary about this is Gary Johnson, this functionally literate presidential candidate, who's probably, you know, intelligent. His stupidity is only surpassed by those people willing to vote for him. It's trending better. It's three times more. It's getting three times more votes than Jill Stein. So it's just, you just can't underestimate the stupidity of the U.S. electorate. So that's Gary Johnson. So let's go to the number 2 man, the pedophilic, psychopathic fascist Donald Trump. Donald Trump and the Republican platform. And so the Republican platform has always been fiscal responsibility, which is an easily disprovable lie. The Republicans aren't about saving money. They're about redistributing the money upward. So they want to take money out of the public sector. And they want to take money from the welfare queens and from social workers, from teachers, and give it to multinational corporations, institutional investors, and weapons corporations. So they're not a party of fiscal responsibility, because when you look at from the Reagan administration, the Nixon administration, the first Bush administration, Bush 2.0, the deficits, the spending, it always goes through the roof. They blow up the budget every single time. But one thing they don't do is they lower taxes while increasing spending. So they say the racist white people who vote Republican and the self-hating Uncle Toms who vote Republican say, well, I think the Republicans are fiscally responsible because when they're in office, they lower my taxes. But guess what? Your fees, your exposures, you're going to pay for that down the line. Because they lower your taxes by taking money away from environmental protections, education, health. So then you're going to have to pay more for local and state jails, because more people are going to be in jail because there are no programs for anything from school to addiction to welfare. So you're not paying less money under Republican, you're just paying less money in federal taxes. But these people are so psychopathic and hateful and individualistic that they were like, I don't care. I'd rather my money go to pay for bombs and pay for prisons than to pay for single mothers and early childhood education and health care. So even if you explain to them that because look, the Republicans lowered taxes, but then you say, do I have more personal wealth under a Bush administration? No. But at least my money went to things that I believe in, which is oppressing and degrading and dehumanizing other people and killing other people overseas and even in my own country, executing people, putting people on death row and locking them up and throwing away the key. So the Republicans have at the top of their things tax reform. They want to defund Social Security. They want to defund anything that's of any benefit to the masses of the people, and then they just put more money into military. But then, and that's not a uniquely Republican thing, because Obama is in the Guinness Book of World Records for passing some of the most inflated military budgets. And that's not just the direct military in the U.S., but selling military hardware to oppressive genocidal regimes. And he's an equal opportunity warlord because he gives money to the Zionist state of Israel, record numbers, multi-billion-dollar weapons deals to the Saudis. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to even talk about the Republican versus the Democratic platform. And you can talk about the Republican versus the Democratic rhetoric. You can talk about the Republican versus Democratic constituency, but you can't even talk about the Republican versus Democratic platform because they overlap in the most important ways. Yes, Republicans don't want trans men and women in the bathroom of their gender identity, and Democrats do. But guess what? When you come out of that toilet, you come out of that stall, whether you have to go to one that you identify with or not, you walk into the same society with two oligarchical parties that don't truly represent the people. And on these wedge issues, they call them, these issues that divide people, but that don't really mean anything. The people that get people all charged up and yelling and fighting about, that get black leaders giving these flaming speeches about the gay agenda. And they don't talk nothing about, the top leaders. I mean, I just listened to speeches earlier this week from the top. Farrakhan, Umar Johnson, Brother Polite, I just said, the irritated genie, all these black demagogues, not one of them mentioned the ecology or climate change. They don't have it, but I don't want to get off on that. We're talking about the Republican platform. So they want fiscal responsibility. They want a hard line on drugs. They want to end Obamacare, which I support. I am completely and totally aggressively against Obamacare. And we will have a healthcare show on what's up with healthcare, what's wrong with healthcare, how to navigate healthcare, what's best to do, and what we should advocate for and what we should do until we get what we need. But they want to completely repeal Obamacare. They also want to take away women's rights to choose. They want to heavily regulate, if not ban, abortions. And they don't really care about abortions. That's just to keep the evangelicals on the hook. And also the Republicans, they really, really, really want to continue to advance the PNAC, the Project for a New American Century. They want naked, open, aggressive, non-diplomatic imperialism, where the Democrats want diplomatic imperialism. We'll have a conversation with you before we bomb you, whereas the Republicans will just bomb you without a conversation. And then you have the Democratic platform. And it's important to pay attention to the Republicans, because even though it looks like, if the numbers are accurate, that the Democrats are slated to take the executive branch, which will give them the leaning majority, a one-judge majority in the Supreme Court. Because this is a rare election. Most elections, it's generally general elections, it's usually just the White House up for play. Because the Senate, the Congress, it's pretty stable. It doesn't flip from Republican to Democrat every election cycle, like the presidency tends to. It tends to remain pretty stable over, sometimes decades. And the Supreme Court can remain pretty stable for a generation or more. So, this particular 2016 election, you got the slant of the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court, the judicial branch, is at play. The executive branch is, of course, let's not pretend it's going to remain in Democratic hands, but it's in play. And the Senate, if not the Congress, is in play. You have some vulnerable seats. There's at least 8 Republican congressmen that are in some pretty tight races. And I think that's the number, that's above the number they need to flip the Senate back to the Democrats, to a Democratic majority, which they haven't had since, 2008, 9, maybe around 2008 to 2010. They haven't had a Democratic majority. So it's very significant who wins on the down ticket. Because Trump is not going to win, but then people are like, oh yeah, we got Hillary. But you still might be stuck with a Republican House and Senate, even if if Hillary has brought you to heel, and you sipped on the Hillary Kool-Aid, which is just regurgitated Obama Kool-Aid. But what's the Democratic platform? They promise to strengthen and enhance Obamacare, mandated corporate health care, which is a nightmare, which isn't working, which people have known. It's a nightmare. So they're going to double down on that nightmare. Utter uncritical support for Israel. They're going to triple down or quadruple down on that nightmare. Well, let's talk about some of the good stuff. I mean, we all know if we care to know, Hillary's past. We know welfare reform, international trade. We just got the email saying she still holds all those positions. She's going to frack the world, which means, promote and impose hydraulic fracturing all over the world. She's going to maintain the carbon-intensive economy. She's going to continue open, naked aggression against several states. She's going to continue the global war with terror. She's going to continue extraordinary rendition, summary execution and assassination, subverting foreign democracy, ignoring sovereignty, ignoring mandates. She's going to continue all that mess. We already know that. But some of the good things she's promising she's doing. Student loan reform. To give relief to people under student loan debt and lower student loan costs. She hasn't said exactly how she plans to do that. She has given lip service to the environment when Bernie was talking about ecology, global warming, climate instability. She's given lip service. She's promised immigration reform. But Obama promised the same thing, and Obama has deported and illegally detained in subhuman conditions more immigrants than any president. She's definitely going to expand. But one thing we can know about the Clintons, we can go back to her husband. For some reason, they've got a real beef with the right wing, the low-class, militia, rednecks, cowboys, white nationalists. Because they are, you have different factions in the systems of white domination. You have what they call the Northeast, New England liberals. And these are the Harvard, the Yale, the articulate, the Rhodes Scholars, have very close ties to the British elites. And then you have the rednecks, the good old boys. They got money too, but they got new money. They got oil money and the militia movement, the gun lobby, the amosexuals, these individuals. And they hate each other. And the Clintons came out of the southern redneck, good old boy, hillbilly elite and have married and been embraced by the New England, Northeastern, old school, old money elite. And for some reason, I guess they felt that they were never given their just due or just respect when they were back in Arkansas, when she was campaigning for Goldwater, when she was a good old girl and Bill Clinton was a good old boy. And so when they were in office, they were bringing down the hammer on the white nationalists. The militia movement was catching hell. So a lot of that stuff, that Bundy stuff, you would have had a Waco situation at the Bundy Ranch or that Oregon, the federal lands occupation by that militia. They thought that, and Obama has emboldened these white nationalists, these biker gangs, these separatists. They are very emboldened. Remember, when Obama first got elected in 2008, their numbers had swelled. You go to 4chan or Stormfront, these racist websites, their numbers have swelled. And so the white nationalists are like, we're a force to be reckoned with. And then they have Trump, they have one of their poster boys, even though he's a New England elite. So you got a New England elite who's caucusing, who's the representative of the good old boys, and you have this Arkansas redneck. I know she's from Illinois, but that's where she cut her political teeth. This Arkansas southern redneck it's all twisted. But like I said, this is WWE. Remember, Hulk Hogan was a hero, a real American, then he was a villain, and it ain't nothing. It's all theater, political theater. But the consequences of these theatrics are very real in your lives, and especially in the lives of our brothers and sisters in the so-called, or really the third world. So that's one thing. At least as we suffer, as we continue to be mass incarcerated, as we continue to be denied our reparations, as we continue to be policed by murderous, homicidal, unaccountable police forces, as we go through all this under a Clinton administration, we can at least know that we're going to enjoy seeing the Bureau of Alcohol, Firearms, and the ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, going after these state militia and all this, and because at least they'll focus on us a little less, because for the last 8 years they've been under the impression that black people been living good. And even though you got white folks who live in these gated communities in the middle of nowhere, flyover country America, who never see black people, for some reason they just bugging out. Now they see us on TV and they think we're all living like Oprah Winfrey and Michael Jordan and Jay-Z and Beyonce. But they're going to stop focusing on us because they don't have to see Barack Hussein Obama, that Muslim, Turk, whatever they think he is, wherever they think he was born. They won't see. So, they will refocus their energy back to the white elites. And then they'll go back to talking about Zog, the Zionist-occupied government, and how the Jews are running the White House. And they'll get back to that. And then so at least, even though our oppression will stand until we fix it, under a Clinton administration, we get to see them tear each other apart again, like we did in the early 90s. And not that I advocate that. Those standoffs and, white nationalist terrorism and Janet Reno, woo! She brought back Janet Reno. She's a feminist, lesbian, hard rock fascist. So when you take lesbian, feminist, fascist and give her the power of policing America, ooh, they brought down the hammer on the good old boys. You should go look at that history. It was white on white violence on a national scale. And since they've been on her, talking about her family, dissing her daughter, dissing her husband, which is her job to keep Clinton down, not ours. I can think we're going to at least, at the very least, despite all this other stuff, despite her, open aggression against Russia, and her continuing, Obama reignited the Cold War, and I'm sure she will expand the Cold War and put the world back on the brink of nuclear holocaust. At least we can feel good with the notion that Hillary Clinton has a history, just as she has a history of oppressing us. Yes, we're going to suffer. Yes, I'm not saying she's good for us. But as we sit in the mass incarceration jail cell, as we sit in our homes without heat and electricity, trying to get warm off of kerosene lamps until they burn us to death, as we go through more of what we went through under the first Clinton administration and what we went through under Obama, absolute political neglect and oppression, we can at least tune in and see New England white elites beating the hell out of redneck Southern militia folks, white nationalists. So the global elite and the isolationist nationalists about to bump heads yet again. And Hillary, I think she's more brutal than Clinton was. So at least that's just something to look forward to. They like to listen to our degenerate rappers talk about black death. So I don't think it's too much of a crime for us to say, well, we're going to rebel and y'all beating the hell out of each other too this time around. So that was my pitiful electoral overview. And that's the first hour. Man, it's just, let me see. And in case you want to know, I'm, of course, voting for Jill Stein. As far as down ballot, I'm going to, be voting green all the way down the ballot. And I'm going to be, and you even get to vote judges. And many of the judges run unopposed, so you can yes or no, get judges out of benches. There's a public transit budgeting initiative on the ballot. So, and there's things that ain't got nothing to do with Democrats or Republicans, but that are just how your resources in your area, in your city, in your town, in your district will be distributed. You get to vote on what the politicians will have access to and what that you can deny them access to. There's a lot on the ballot. And yes, they play with the votes, but they play with the money. They play with the interest rate. So I'm saying, and believe you, my political action didn't start. It's not going to start on November 8th or end on November 8th. I'm politically engaged. And I don't mean just electoral politics, party politics, formal politics. I got underground politics. I got community politics. I got family politics. All things are political. Politics saturates every element of your life. The quality of food you eat, what chemicals go in or out of that food, it's political. The woman you're married to, all the love and emotion, that's a political. Look at your marriage contract. Or even if you ain't married and you cohabitating or you got baby mamas, there are books and stacks of policies and laws and regulations that govern everything you do. And you mean to tell me you're just going to let it happen to you? You're not going to try to flex your political muscle? And then you have to organize your people. Certain things you can lobby for, certain things you can negotiate, other things are non-negotiable and you have to say, this is where I die, my line in the sand. You're going to have to die, be willing to die or kill me. Because, I mean, so you can do all things. You know, that's what it means to be conscious and revolutionary. You can't just say, well, I'm going to ignore or cut myself from this element of society and fully engage in this because all things are connected. You can't say, well, I'm going to fight for economic issues and ignore women's issues. When women are the head of households, when women are, you know, the women with children, single women with children are the number one demographic, impoverished demographic. So if you're not advocating, if you're not fighting for women, black women in particular, then you're not fighting for economic justice. See, all things are connected. But you want to be a moralist? You got a moralist attacking single mothers, attacking women, but talking about he wants to economically improve the black standing? He's an idiot, or a liar, or a shyster, or all of the above. So all things are connected. Anytime you got a black leader or a black organization saying they don't mess around with politics, but they want to do something on the economic realm, you know they're stupid, or they're lying, or they're on somebody's payroll. So, I don't know, that was a horrible overview. I have my notes. I didn't even look at my notes. What did I write this crap down for? And I keep notes, and why did I didn't even look. That's the thing, I'm going to get professional. Maybe I'll go to broadcast school or something, or take an online course at Phoenix University in broadcasting, so I can be more formal and more appropriate, because I think I am doing a public service here. So that's pretty much my very rough overview of the Democratic, Republican, Green, and Libertarian platforms and their vice presidents. I said I'm voting Jill Stein on top of the ticket and Green for most of the tickets, but I am reviewing. And if you want, and I got to be realistic, the Democrats are better than the Republicans on the things that matter the most. Number one, the environment. They're both horrible on the environment. But the Republicans are much worse. Democrats, because that's the most important thing. If somebody said, what's the number one issue that overcomes all other issues, from Black Lives Matter to racial justice to reparations to even women's rights and things that are very important to my heart, the number one issue is the climate. Global warming, carbon emissions, ocean acidification. Issues dealing with the environment and the climate are the worst, because we can fight about how we're going to live, and we can war with each other and beat the hell out of each other and write all kind of volumes and volumes of ideological text about how to govern society. But right now, the life-sustaining capacity of the earth is under direct and immediate and expanding threat. And what's threatening it? Capitalist energy production and resource acquisition and distribution. That's number one. Ecology. Now, ecology encompasses the economy, and if we believe Marx, the economy is the engine of all other things: culture, politics. And in Western, I don't believe that's true for all societies, but the dominant society that has imposed itself on the rest of the humanity, Western democracy, Western capitalism, global white domination, that's the number one thing. And at least the Democratic Party, and I think the whole world should vote in U.S. elections. Because the United States is a global empire, and they don't stay out of nobody's business and out of nobody's borders. And the U.S. Military, the U.S. pollution, U.S. mass consumption affects everyone in the world. I think everyone in the world should vote in U.S. elections. That's what I would think. Yes, to hell. Because U.S. don't respect nobody's sovereignty. Therefore, U.S. sovereignty is forfeit, which ain't really real, because real sovereignty in the U.S. means it gets turned over to the natives. The only legitimate sovereign population in this country are the Native Americans. So, the Republicans don't even acknowledge global warming. They said it's a Chinese conspiracy to manipulate U.S. market. I mean, that's dangerous. I'm telling you, a Republican voter is an Uncle Tom, a racist, and an idiot. Whereas a Democratic voter is just an idiot. So that's better, right? Better than a racist, misogynistic, pedophile apologist, Republican. So they acknowledge global warming. So that alone makes the Democratic Party. And I know that we think you can't say anything good because the Democrats are bad and you can't. So I'm just being honest. I'm not voting Democrat. I'm not voting for Hillary Clinton. I'm not a Democratic Party member and I don't support the Democratic Party. But if you ask me to make a comparison between the Democrats and the Republicans, then I have to acknowledge. And let me tell you, my folks, we ain't simple, but we can be dumb. Because, I mean, we always know how to pick the best of the worst. And I know we like to get on our people of our loyalty to the Democratic Party, but at least we ain't loyal. Because you know the majority of white people support the Republicans. And if not for the loyal black and vast majority of Latino votes, there wouldn't even be a Democratic Party. And we have all this power. Like I said, in some regions, black folks make up more in the local, because you know they got local branches, regional branches. Black people make up are the only black, but we don't flex our muscle. And like Claude Anderson said, when you have power, flex that power. And I'm over the time, dead presidents to represent me. Yeah, I would like some dead presidents. Oh, I'm sure the Secret Service are on their way. But before y'all get me for saying the word dead presidents, y'all better stop off and pick up Jay-Z first. So from here on, I've given my overview. If you got any more questions or inputs about elections, send me questions. Call in 312-985-7834. And we could chop it up about politics. But I pretty much said all I have to say. Vote green. Don't be intimidated into voting against your interest. The differences between the Republicans and the Democrats are too subtle to really make a difference in terms of policy, because the real difference is between style and rhetoric. But generally, when it comes to international policy, when it comes to sustaining and expanding the empire, a lot of times the Democrats are a lot more effective than the Republicans. And one thing if Trump gets in, he's going to have a lot of obstruction out the gate. So he's going to walk into office basically as a lame duck, virtually castrated. So even though he says a lot more horrible things, he'll be in a weaker position to execute his horrors. Whereas Hillary Clinton will be in a stronger position to do more damage. So it's like, do you want to fight a vicious Waller attack you, or a small, sickly rabid raccoon? They're both very dangerous, but they're different types of threats. You want prostate cancer or breast cancer? Well, you'll be deciding November 8th. And I think I predicted long ago where we were going with this. Anyway, taking a musical interlude, I'll be back. We're going to talk about, let me finally look at my notes. We're going to talk about the black family and white unity when we come back. Peace. Bro Diallo Show. Thank you for tuning in live. It's time to go to q4.org, QUE4.org, or you can go to Q4 Radio on Facebook and continue to listen. We got another 2 hours extended show. Again, thanks for tuning in. Peace. I can't keep going live. I try to do 1/3 of the show live or 1/4 of the show live, but I appreciate you, sister, Miss Isaac. I hope you stay with us. Peace.